Hello everyone, Madmandoc here for the second in my series of GEMP Star Wars CCG games with commentary. In this game I'll be playing Prophet against a Trooper deck. It's a much more casual game than the first video I did, and I'll take you through it now. Okay, so starting cards are coming out. As I mentioned, I'm playing Prophet, and my opponent's starting with Corilag. Now, of course, I don't immediately know what he's going to do, but starting with Corilag strongly suggests a Trooper deck. And as the starting interrupts and effects come out, I can see that that's definitely what it's going to be. He has started with Imperial Arrest Order and Secret Plans, which is pretty standard for Generation and also effective against Prophet. And an entire legion of my best troops, which confirms we're going to see quite a few troopers, as well as mobilization points, which might be used either for Generation or to get the Executor for some sort of space component. Now, I should point out that my Prophet deck is not my strongest deck. It's one that I play a little bit for variety when I get tired of some other light side decks that I have that work a little bit better. I don't think that in the current meta, the light side has very many good options. I do enjoy playing Prophet a little bit, but it struggles against a lot of dark side decks, and it just does not have the overall win chances that some of the other decks do. Okay, so looking at the start here, as you can see, I started with Insurrection and Aim High, as well as staging areas, and your insight serves you well, and then draw your fire. Now, Insurrection and Aim High gets me a little bit of Generation. I'm going to pull the 1.0 docking bays, and I'm going to use the Tatooine docking bay as well as the generic docking bay to fill out my Tatooine sites. I don't have much in the way of locations or generation for this Prophet deck. And that's one of its weak points, is that it doesn't generate much force right off the top, and especially if the dark doesn't give me force, it can be a little bit slow. I start with your insight serves you well in staging areas to address some of that lack of generation by controlling docking bays a little later in the deck. And the insight actually helps me quite a bit in battles against Vader. That -1 to his defense value proves quite helpful for many things, and you will see that happen or that used once later in the game. The third effect is draw their fire. Now, this is interesting. I use that for two reasons. One, most times the opponent will put 2 aliens at the audience chamber, and one of the first things that will happen is I will attack those aliens. So that gives me the retrieve and force loss benefit of draw their fire. The second part comes a little bit later in the game, as it turns out that most of my deck is designed around defensive battles. I kind of call it a rope-a-dope, although I don't mean to demean any opponents by saying that, but the idea is to have them attack me only to find that the circumstances of the battle are not what they were expecting. And draw their fire plays into that a little bit. It encourages them to attack me. Later order to engage will be played, and that forces them to attack me or pay a pretty stiff penalty. And when that happens, some surprises can hit them. That's part of what makes this deck fun. It's certainly what makes the deck potentially effective. And hopefully it'll make an interesting view as later in this game we see quite the combo get unleashed on a battle that my opponents started. Okay, so looking at my starting hand, I have Fallen Portal, Tunnel Vision, Goonie Tay, Leia with Blaster Rifle, Don't Get Cocky, Help Me Obi-Wan Kenobi, Run Luke Run, and Sorry About the Mess, and Blaster Proficiency. Now, this is actually a very strong starting hand for me. I really like having that Tunnel Vision. I love having the Goonie Tay, and some of these defensive interrupts will serve me well once I get Han out, which will hopefully happen pretty quickly, especially since he did not deploy any aliens at the start, so Han is unguarded. That means there's an X chance we'll get him out of there on the first or second turn. Okay, so my opponent is playing his first turn, and he's starting off with some force generation via docking bay deployment, and he simply draws some cards. I activate 6 force, which is a pretty good start since he did give me the 1 force to start. I pull a docking bay. Of course, Gunite comes out, and then I tunnel vision. Now, when I looked for that docking bay, I took a moment to check what was in my reserve, and mainly I was looking for a Luke with lightsaber or a Master Luke. Ideally, I would deploy one of those two and rescue Han. It's good to deploy Luke now because he's cheaper before I flip the objective. And I was able to see that I had a Luke in the active pile, hence I used the tunnel vision to go get him. So Luke will immediately come down to Jabba's palace, and I decide to go ahead and just get Han out. Now, his secret plan stops my retrieval, but it's only 2 cards. Neither one is essential, and I'm okay with that. That's part of what makes Prophet a little less optimal deck. Secret plans is going to be on the table almost 100% of the time, and it's just too much cost to pay right at the beginning of the game to pay 5 to retrieve cards, especially when you don't even have 5 cards in the lost pile. So that negates that potential benefit of Prophet and makes it a lot less effective overall. Now I decide to go ahead and move Luke and Han over here to Jabba's palace because I have this fallen portal, and they're a little bit safer there because of that. He continues his development with a docking bay and puts the Emperor to Coruscant. Now, that's a pretty good play in large part because it gets him a lot of generation. The Emperor has a force icon, and mobilization points gives him 2 more for controlling that docking bay. So he's got a whole lot more force generation, as well as the ability to move the Emperor to either his docking bay or mine, and the Emperor's always a tough nut to crack, even with all these mains. Alright, so I activate my force, use my or be destroyed to make him lose a few force, and drain it to Jabba's palace. He cancels it with strategic reserves, and I think we can expect to see that quite often, as he's no doubt going to show a lot of troopers in this deck. Now I'm looking at my cards in hand, and I have an amazing set of the situation. I happen to have this Leia, as well as a Run Luke Run and a Help Me Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now everyone knows what Run Luke Run does. Help Me Obi-Wan Kenobi does almost the same thing, only it works for any rebel. Well, any rebel of ability greater than 2. And that's really helpful with all these EPPs hanging around on adjacent sites. That means that somebody's going to start a battle and find that there's more people in that battle than they were expecting. I also have this Don't Get Cocky, which means that if anyone tries to attack Han and Luke, I'll be getting 4 battle destinies. On Portal, of course, and the Sorry About the Miss Blaster proficiency allows me to either knock out a lower defense character immediately, or shoot Vader with Leia or Han, and almost always hit him. With the Insight Serves You Well, the +1 from their weapons and the +3 from blaster proficiency is pretty easy to shoot Vader, and obviously that's very, very, very helpful and probably unexpected. Alright, so I put Leia out here, and one thing in the back of my mind is that they may be tempted to attack Leia, they may be tempted to attack Han. In either case, I've got some pretty good surprises in defense that they won't expect. And of course, both these sites are protected by Fallen Portal. Against troopers, that's a devastating card, even with their enhanced defense value from a Legion of Our Best Troops. So draw a couple cards. I pick up a barrier, which gives me a unstoppable defense for for pretty much anything. Alright, now he does an expected move, basically. He deploys Vader and Vader's lightsaber to attack. He decides to go after Leia here, and I've got to decide whether to barrier this. And I decide not to barrier this because I can defend this attack and probably take out Vader. I have several of out of commission and transmission terminated in this deck, and if Vader gets knocked out in this battle, it'll cause him to have a Vader and a Vader's lightsaber in his lost pile, with very few cards in the lost pile, and that means that later I may be able to put one or both of those out of play, which would make my forces basically unstoppable. So I'm okay with letting him fight Leia here, because he's going to get portaled or shot and going to end up getting lost. Okay, he converts my docking bay. That's not great, but it's okay. And he attacks and uses my draw their fire against me. Now I fire off a fallen portal here, and I hit with a 4 destiny draw, which eliminates Vader. Now that was lucky, but if you took a close look at my reserve deck a minute ago when I was looking for docking bays, you would see that I had a very large number of 4s and 5s, and even a 6 or 2 in there. About a third of the deck is 4s or 5s. Now most of that is 4s, and that's where your Insight Serves You Well really comes in handy, because with that card out, Vader can be hit by Fallen Portal with a draw of 4, and I have something around 10 4s in this deck. It makes the chances of hitting that blind go way up, and that's what happened. Obviously, that's a great result for me. We go to my next turn. Activating 9 Force, a little bonus thanks to staging areas. And we put a little pressure on here with drains and or be destroyed. I have one more docking bay to deploy and do that. And it looks like it's a turn for rebuilding my hand a bit. Now, as you can see, I drew a out of commission, and I'm going to play that, aiming for Vader, who is in a lost pile with only 6 cards in it. Now I hit Vader's lightsaber. That's not as good as Vader, but it's the next best thing by far. Vader is a big problem, but it's the lightsaber that allows him to kill Han with heavy blaster pistol, and now that he can't use that, it's going to be much harder for him to eliminate Han, and that's going to help me quite a bit. Drawing more cards, and I got to another tunnel vision. That's going to help. He moves Emperor over to Hoth to start a drain, and he draws cards. So at this point, I've got a pretty good development. I have a whole lot of defense cards in my hand, and I can tell that I'm going to do well in this game. It's just going to be hard for him to make a comeback against me at this point, because he's going to be under pressure very quickly, and I have responses to just about anything he could try to do to reduce that pressure. Okay, let me just continue this activation. Do the drains and do the profit loss. Alright, now I'm playing Tunnel Vision. Now, let's talk about Tunnel Vision for just a minute. This is a card that I kind of love. I put it in almost every light side deck. I don't really see other players doing it, and I wonder if maybe I'm wrong to do it sometimes because no one else does. But I just really like the ability to go get a card out of your force pile, anything you want. It's a little bit like having an extra copy of some huge chunk of your deck, all built into one card. And I don't mind the fact that it's a lost interrupt. In Star Wars, it's not a big deal to lose one card if it helps you to control the board. You know, it's the effect of controlling the board over time that gives you the victory. So it's a very small loss, and I'm totally fine with that. It helps you get combos together, and this deck has a lot of combos. Now, I'm looking at the force pile here. I don't see a huge amount of good options, but there's a couple things I can do. I can bring Order to Engage, which is always helpful. I could grab Skywalkers, which could be pretty helpful if he attacks again. I don't really need Obi-Wan. I'm not sure I need Chewie or Marco. I don't need. And of course, Luke I don't need. So I decided to take Order to Engage and play it. That synergizes quite well with basically everything that's going on in my deck right now. If he comes down to Tatooine at all, I'm going to force him into a battle with the combination of Order to Engage and Draw Their Fire. And when that happens, as you can see from my interrupts, there's going to be some nasty surprises. And he drains with the Emperor and deploys a Dreadnought to Coruscant. Now, little point of strategy here. I don't have any ships in my hand. I don't even think I have any ships in this deck. So I can't do anything about the Coruscant drain. But he did deploy 2 cards to Coruscant, which means it's going to take him at least 2 more turns before he breaks even on that. So it's not going to be a big loss. There's a good chance he'll deploy another guy to that Dreadnought because it's kind of vulnerable right now, which means it'll take him 3 turns to break even. And I can accept that. I've got a lot of damage going myself, and I've got a little bit of lead in development and hand size. Okay, now he's bringing troopers against Leia. He's brought 2 elite stormtroopers, a stormtrooper cadet, and an Imperial Trooper Guard. Okay, so he's going to attack here. He wouldn't be doing this if he wasn't planning to initiate on this turn. With Order to Engage and Draw Their Fire out, it just makes too much sense for him to attack. Now, looking at my cards, I can kind of see what's going to happen here, and this is going to be the entertaining part of my video for the viewers. I feel a little sorry for my opponent because he's about to become the victim of a devastating combo that I have gotten largely by luck of a good first draw. There's just having part of this combo would be effective, but I've got basically all of it, and when he attacks, it's going to be a bit of a disaster. Okay, he attacks. I lose for Draw Their Fire. And now the first thing is to play Fallen Portal targeting the Stormtrooper Cadet. Now, you can see I have Destiny Adders in my hand. That cadet could absorb all battle damage and all attrition from me, so he cannot be allowed to survive to the end of the battle. Luckily, he only has a low defense value, and I have Fallen Portal, as well as Clash of Sabers, and sorry about the Mess Blaster proficiency. So we're going to get him with something. Let's just see how it goes. Fallen Portal, and the draw is a 4, which is enough to eliminate him right away. He plays Trooper Assault. Good play. Boosting his power up to 11, and at this point it looks like he's doing pretty well. But reinforcements are on the way, and the first step is Run, Luke, Run. Luke runs over. And now Help Me Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Han runs over. Luke swings the lightsaber at the elite squadron stormtrooper, and misses. Han fires at the Elite Squadron Stormtrooper, and I use blaster proficiency to add shot, hitting the trooper. Now I make a move that I'm rather fond of. I Clash of Sabers a hit character, which excludes them from the battle, but since they're hit, they're going to the lost pile. Now, as you can see, he doesn't have enough ability to draw Battle Destiny, and his power's down to 7. Leia fires at the Trooper Guard. I probably should have fired at the other guy, since the Trooper Guard doesn't really have any forfeit anyway. Maybe a small mistake there. And my Destiny adders have been played. Skywalkers and Don't Get Cocky. Plus the text on the EPPs means I have 7 Battle Destiny here. Okay, so 27 battle damage. He forfeits the troopers and has 23 battle damage remaining. As you can see, that's going to be game over. I wouldn't really expect him to have a GIC, but he couldn't play it even if he did, because draw their fire. Well, no, he initiated the battle. He could play GIC if he had it, but apparently doesn't have it. And he decides to concede the game, which of course is reasonable, since that is too much of a loss to come back from. Okay, so that was quite the combo. I was very lucky to get such a good starting hand that allowed me to pull that off, and well, that won't normally happen with this deck. Usually I'll get half or 2/3 of that combo, and I'll still be able to knock out a whole bunch of guys who inevitably attack or even do a little bit of battle damage. But I thought it was an interesting game due to the luck that I had with hitting every element of that combo and turning a battle he initiated with a power advantage into a very large force loss on his part. Yeah, all right, that's it. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I will be producing another video soon. If you enjoyed this, please send a link to any friends who are playing on GEMP or anyone who wants to learn. Thank you very much, and Madmandoc out.